Welcome to the Honest Designers Show, your transparent look into life as a modern designer. My name's Tom Ross and I'm the founder at designcuts.com, and this week I'm joined by my fellow Brit and expert hand letterer Ian Barnard, American retro design expert Dustin Lee, and the incredibly talented South African illustrator Lisa Glanz. In this week's episode, we discuss how to get out of your own head and see the wider picture. In design, it can be really easy to get blinkered in your work, but it's so crucial to get inside the head of your clients and those people experiencing your design work. This week, we look at exactly how to do that and ultimately how to make yourself a better designer in the process. Let's get into the show. So this week, we're talking all about putting yourself in your client or your customer's shoes. And really, I think this is about getting out of your own head, right, guys? Because I think we all have a tendency, we go in the bubble, we get lost in our work, we're staring at the screen for hours, and it can be pretty easy to fall into bad habits of basically thinking all about yourself, your own project, how it looks, getting stuck up in all the minutiae there, and not taking that crucial step back to think about the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And that could be everything from, is this what my client wants, to if it's a product or something, like, is it going to sell, to is this going to make people happy? Like all that kind of stuff, I'd say is possibly even more important than the fine details you get lost in. But yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna open it up, even though normally when I do that, a tumbleweed rolls by. So someone help me, out and jump on this one.
We should put that in one episode. Just
yeah,
the tumbleweed sound effect.
You should like the old spaghetti, like the spaghetti western, where it's like That's a really horrible example of it. But yeah,
that ghostly kind of wind, like passing through a abandoned town or something.
Exactly, that definitely happens. I was gonna say, because I've been reading a book lately on illustration, because I started that illustration thing thanks to you guys.
Dustin, are you plugging your Instagram again?
Yes.
It's already just blowing up.
I just read this thing.
At Hey Dustin Lee, if you want to follow it.
I'm not even going to say the name of it.
Nice.
But if you don't find a group or who the people are that are your customers or your clients, it can be really ravaging. It ravages like your excitement about what you're doing, because you can't get anybody, right? Like no matter how good it is, if there's no people that care or want to buy, you end up just fizzling out anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Like whether that's products with a customer base or freelancing with a client base.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter how good you are if you don't have some level of distribution. And for that, if we're thinking in terms of the mindset here, for that you need that mindset, right? You need to get out your own head. And you need to think about this real stuff. Like
you could be a Leonardo da Vinci of drawing, I don't know, bolts or something like that. But if there's no one that wants bolt drawings, then you're still going to get really sad and give up, right?
Exactly.
I'll take a bolt drawing. How much are we talking?
I once attended a meeting with sort of a group of designers and clients. We were all kind of collaborating together to get a project off the ground, and the one designer was so caught up in his design concept and so blindsided and amped about his work and what his idea, that he actually totally, he missed the brief, he missed the whole point.
What was it? Can you tell us?
It was like strangely enough, it was for a nightclub, like a club, like a sort of elitist nightclub. And because he thought this was, needed to be zhuzhy and on the edge, so extreme that you actually couldn't read the brochure. You couldn't read what they were selling. It was so disjointed and so over the place, but he was so excited because according to him, this was cutting edge design. And if you looked at it, it was quite forward thinking. But the problem is that the client is, whoever they're kind of selling it to or was going to pick up the brochure just didn't understand what they were selling, what they were going to, experience they were going to experience. So I think as designers and artists, we get so caught up in like because we see the vision in our own heads of what we want it to look like, and
Yeah.
we just assume that everybody else is on the same page, and that's just not the case at all, So yeah.
I'd have to say I'm pretty guilty of designing something maybe because it'll look better in my portfolio if I design it this way, but actually what the
I think we
customer
all a
wants.
little bit guilty of that.
Yeah, we want it
Yeah.
to look cool.
Yeah.
There's a thing that I talk about in business and design where you end up Frankensteining it because you keep bolting on bits over time until it's like this unrecognizable, clunky monster.
Right.
And I think that's a very big symptom of being so wrapped up in the design and not taking that step back. And I saw this recently. I'm not going to name and shame anyone, of course, but really, really good designer. And there were a few portfolio pieces where they were so busy, like you talked about with that guy in his brief. They were so busy and they're nicely designed, but it just became a bit of a mess. And I could see they'd gone down the rabbit hole of just probably really enjoying the project and keep bolting this on and let's add a texture there and let's add another element there. And before you know it, it's like, oh, okay, this is actually no good. And as designers, we all know simplicity is often best.
Well, and I think too, if you have to solve the problem after the fact, then you get that Frankenstein bolt-on thing because you solve it and you didn't solve it correctly in the first place. So then you're reversing and pulling things out and trying to put things back on. Whereas I feel like a more efficient way to do it is I think of people like Chris De Lorenzo, or I've recently been looking at a lot of stuff by a guy named Mikey Burton. They both do editorial illustrations, and you look at them and they've, by design, no pun intended, made it so their work fits perfectly for editorial illustration. So when when someone asks for it for something, it already naturally has that look, that character to it that they don't have to reverse and pull back and try to shove things into it and end up with that Frankenstein look.
Yeah. Oh, I've got a good analogy here actually. So I did art at school, and this one's for you, Dustin. Coming at you,
I love
big guy.
analogies, man.
It is possibly the nerdiest thing that's been said on this podcast.
Oh, I doubt it.
I really doubt that, actually.
He doesn't get out much.
I doubt it, seriously.
No, I just love how we're laughing at it. It's even funny.
So yeah, when I was doing art at school, I would always kind of dive right into the details before looking at planning the drawing properly. And I love doing portraits, but I'd always start by doing I'd always start with the eye for some reason, because I like drawing eyes. And I do a super detailed eye. It would look really good and realistic. And then I'd kind of go from there and do some of the nose and then the mouth. And before I knew it, each part was kind of fairly nicely drawn, but the face just looked terrible. It looked like plastic surgery gone wrong or something. Because
it's like a Mr. Potato Head, right?
Exactly.
That is a brilliant analogy, because I think we're all. I could never be bothered to do the thing where you do all the guidelines and measure it all out, because I was like, oh, that's like engineering, that's not art. I don't want to get all mathematical with it. And I've been guilty of the same stuff designing as well, where it's like if only you put a bit more time up front to plan it properly. And a lot of that is mindset, instead of just diving in straight away into all the details, into all the minutiae.
Mm-hmm.
And then you end up with Mr. Potato Head.
Well, I actually had someone email me that was a listener for Design Cuts. They had written me, or maybe they commented somewhere, and they had said, because I had mentioned about doing logos and how I was like, you never know what you're going to get. Someone asked me to draw an ape or a gorilla. Yeah. And I was always scared, because what is someone going to ask for when I do a logo? And I wish I knew the commenter's name so I could give them proper credit for it. But he had said, there's a process you can go through to make sure that doesn't happen. So I don't know what the process was, but it's thinking ahead, I'm guessing something to the effect of qualify them. Say, by the way, I don't do animal faces. I don't do realistic animal faces. If you do that up front, you solve yourself a lot of pain.
Is this the thing you talked about a few weeks ago about the gorilla that looked like a pineapple?
Because someone had heard that and then wrote me and was like, there's a way to stop that kind of stuff from happening when you do logos, which essentially was think ahead, which my dumb, didn't do.
I always like this where an episode takes an organic tangent, and I know we started this one and it was going to be more about getting inside the client or customer's head, but I think this is a wider thing than that, right? This is thinking ahead and proper planning.
Yeah,
which does link into that, absolutely.
Yeah.
it does. Yeah, because it's taking into account the client's needs and the end results and everything. I mean, you know what I find fascinating? I don't know if you guys agree, but a lot of designers forget that end customers have to read the text, and
Totally.
it's just weird. Like they design things so over design, if that's the word, and you end up not being able to actually read what the message is. So yeah, I always find that fascinating.
There's some quote, I'm sure, where it's like great design's invisible or something.
Yeah.
Well,
you
that's
don't know,
pretty...
you don't notice it or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same with editing in movies, right? Unless it's like a real deliberate, like I'm an auteur, so I'm going to make a deliberate editing decision. But
Yeah.
but in general, cinema and TV, you should never notice it. You should just pay attention to the story and not notice that it keeps cutting.
Yeah.
You know, a really commonplace I noticed, and I'm sure I'm guilty of it, and I've actually been called out on it, but I see it in other people's stuff too and notice it even more, is have you ever gone to a site for a product and you're like, what is this? I don't understand. What are they offering? Like you look and you read the thing on the hero image, and then you start like looking at the navigation. You're like, I still
don't understand what you're selling.
It reminds me of the first time I went into, so I don't know if they have these in UK, but do you guys have the self-serve frozen yogurt stands where you go inside and like you get to build up your own ice creams and put toppings on top and pile them?
Wow, no.
They charge you by the weight?
No, only in America.
As I described that, I thought this is such an American thing to like put something on a gigantic scale and be like, that will be $8 based on it being 2 pounds.
Here's exactly how much you should hate yourself.
Right, exactly. Like, here's how much to punish yourself. But I remember going into one of those stores, and the store was so poorly designed that a lady came in, and I had done the same thing. And you see people getting ice cream, and you're not sure like where the line begins or where to get the cups. And this lady was freaking out, like, and she was like, people were coming in ahead of her and getting ahead of her. And she was like, how do I buy? How do I buy? Because it was so poorly designed. She had no idea. Right. And like, I've totally had that on websites where I'm like, this looks cool, but what is it?
Oh, that made me think of my favorite design faux pas I've ever seen. So I went to Bali a few months ago with my girlfriend. Amazing trip. And there was this big sign on the beach, and they'd put a lot of effort into it. It was like all hand painted and kind of nicely lettered and stuff. And it was meant to say ice cold beers. But because a lot of Australians go there, I guess the local guy running it had kind of overheard them talking about ice cold beers. And so it just said ice cold piss. Because if you do it in an Aussie accent, it's kind of like ice cold beers. So I think they just
Ice cold beers.
Apologies to all the Australian listeners there for the terrible accent, but he was there like proudly just like standing by the sign being like, anyone like ice cold piss right here, no, get your ice cold piss.
I'm sure a few people would be interested. Go, I've never had that before.
It's a Balinese delicacy.
Some people would be like, hey, at least they're honest about it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not good beer.
But yeah, that's a prime example of when you don't consider your audience and plan up front.
Yeah. You see how important that is? I mean, our role is actually really super important, and I think designers forget that. We're the in-between guy, you know?
We're communicators.
Exactly.
Not just beautifiers.
Yeah.
Ian, I'm curious when you do client work with your lettering, because you have a distinct style. Do they give you really rigid guidelines, and do you have to think about what they're doing, or do they pretty much say, draw like you always do, or letter like you always do, please?
If I had a one style that they were coming to me for, like a lot of people do, then maybe. But because my style is quite random, I normally get them to. Oh no! What happens normally is they have a mood board. A mood board of just styles that they found maybe on Pinterest or Instagram. And they say, this is the sort of look we're going for. And like one of my pieces might be on there with some other people's pieces. And I gauge the sort of tone they're looking for.
That's
so that's
helpful.
normally, and that is so much better than saying just do whatever you want, which
Yeah,
is
it is.
just like it's like the worst words I can hear, because that really doesn't. I find that if the client can narrow down exactly what they want, it opens up more creativity for me. But that might be just me, because like the more restrictions I put on a project, the more creative I am. And in the reverse is if they open it up and just go, do whatever you want. It
No,
usually
sure.
ends in a bad, like I do something and they say, well, I don't like that. And I'm like, well, if you told me in the beginning, that might have helped. And so, so mood boards is normally what they give me. And I you know, for someone like Mikey, is it Burton?
Mm-hmm.
Mikey B.
Mikey B, he's got a distinctive style with his illustrations, and they would come to him and probably just give him the topic of what it's on, and he would do it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, I'm sort of a bit more of a broader styled letterer, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. I really like what you're saying about the mood boards, because I think before we've advised having those initial conversations, maybe even questionnaires with the client. I don't think we've actually talked about requesting a mood board. And as designers are visual people, I think that's one of the best ways to get inside their head, because even if they articulate in words, you still might miss the point, or
It's
they
still
might not.
not the same.
They might not explain themselves very well. Whereas if they're literally going, "That looks nice to me," that doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And you could even like respond with a mood board. So if they put together a mood board and you're like, great, on the back of that, I've created my own mood board with a few similar ideas. Are these also along the right lines? You're pretty much guaranteeing they're going to like what you do if you then stick within those parameters.
It is right, because like Ling. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, man.
I was just saying off the top of that, it's just that if you can put a ton of work up front and getting the right direction for the project, you won't end up doing a load of work and then having to do a load of more work.
Exactly.
So you'll do the work and then it will be not, it'll be tweaking at the end. So you sort of like I suppose, like a sort of mountain. You start off with a bigger chunk of work at the bottom, so then it gets narrower and narrower by the time you get to the top, rather than sort of like a upside down mountain.
A tower.
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of a game, I'm picturing like pin the tail on the donkey, where you're just desperately hitting places until you finally get the right spot. And,
Exactly.
Yeah, I hate that thing when you start a project, and I used to think it was freeing, and then the more experienced I got, it became terrifying, where you don't have that direction. And you are doing that pin the tail on the donkey. It's kind of horrible. So I think if you get that absolute clarity up front, then your job essentially is just to make the message clear, because you already know what the aesthetic should look like. So it's like, just make it look beautiful within those parameters and make sure the message comes across. And then you won't go down that thing of making it Frankenstein and overly convoluted and unclear.
Yeah, exactly. That's so true.
It's almost like if you, and tell me if you think this is true or not, but it almost feels like if you ask the right questions to the client, the work almost does itself. I mean, other than actually drawing and executing it, but the actual concept almost will just be born out of great questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think if you force the client to be more and more specific and clearer on the end result, and I really believe that, I mean, I'm glad you brought up the mood board, Ian, because I really believe a visual representation is far more accurate than them verbalizing what they want. And especially if the mood board they give you is lower, this is going to sound weird, lower than the par of what you would give them. Does that sound bad or weird?
What do you
No, I've had that where they give me a mood board and I'm like, that's all really ugly.
Yeah, so
Is that what you mean?
I mean, because then you think, woohoo, I'm gonna like kill this,
No, I
Because
don't. I think, oh no, they've got no taste, and I'm going to
that's what I
struggle to
think.
create something that sucks like that.
No, I get excited when I see that, because it means that I can guide them, because then I have a clearer idea of what they want, but then I can also kind of guide them. Okay, so this is my style of where I'm going to take it, and 9 times out of 10, they are so over the moon because you've applied what they wanted, plus your own style, plus you've taken it up a notch, and everyone's happy.
So it's not that they have bad taste. It's just that like they didn't realize they could get something so great because I'm with Tom. Like I always thought when I'd see that, oh, well, they have really horrible taste. Now I have to really lower myself and try to do something bad.
No,
But it's just that the expectations are low because they're like, you must cost
Yes.
$1 billion to get
Correct.
such a great looking.
correct. Yeah.
So I guess what you're saying is, Lisa, you're very much glass half full, and with Dustin and I, the glass is empty and smashed on the floor. By comparison.
I mean, yeah, pretty much. Because
Okay.
recently I had, for the first time ever, actually had an pattern sort of brief, but they gave me quite a comprehensive mood board. And as Ian said, it was quite a weird experience because I've never actually had that. And with that specific narrowed brief, I was the more creative because besides the fact the mood board and the pictures that they showed me were kind of like sort of elementary level, kind of, I thought, okay, cool. So now I know what they're expecting, and they haven't shown me like these giant masterpieces that I have to live up to, It's kind of like I can now, hopefully, whatever I produce, they're going to be even more impressed because this is the level that they were happy with, kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So then you aim for that. You aim for that higher sort of mark, and then when you show it to them, hopefully they're over the moon. So yeah.
Here's a practical tip. Get them to set up, they don't have to make a mood board, like physically put stuff together in like Word or whatever package they're using, but get them to do in Pinterest because obviously they can just pin it. But if they don't know how to do it, make a little tutorial showing them how to do it.
Yes, and start the board or whatever.
Yeah,
and
so
invite them. Yeah,
just have like a PDF document that you can say, like, here you go, log in, set yourself up an account with Pinterest. This is how you pin an item. This is how you search for an item. This is how you arrange your boards. Because I had some of the clients I've had, they've actually physically made a board and shared it with me, and you can show them how to do that as well. You can, if you had like a PDF or you had like a video tutorial, because like then you could do, if a client comes to you, say, okay, I'd really like it, rather than you've sent me a brief, that's fine, but could you make a mood board for me as well so I can visually, because I'm a visual person, because we're all designers. That will really help me to get a better understanding what you were after. Send them a video, send them a PDF. They go off and do it in their time. You don't have to worry about the design until they come back with that.
Yeah.
And then once you've got it, you can sort of, you can print it off yourself and download it, and you've got that there physically. And then I think it will just help you get further quicker because of that process.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. Because if you think about it, especially for smaller clients that aren't constantly hiring designers, imagine if someone said, make me a mood board, and you described it. I would think to myself, where do I even go? As a designer, you immediately think, oh, well, I can look on Pinterest. I can go look on Dribbble. I can go look on Instagram. I can, all the spots to go find great looking stuff to put on your mood board. But if you're a small client, you might be like, I don't know, like try Google imaging something. And that's why it looks like rubbish, right? Because you're just finding these things from horrible places because you don't know.
Yeah. And plus they can do it on their mobile phone. If they, they download, say that here, I'll download the Pinterest app, set yourself up a mood board, fill it in, share it with me. They don't even have to go on their computer to do it. They can just do it on their phone, in an evening, whatever that may look like. And
yeah. Or if they're out and about, they could be like, oh, I love this shop front
signage,
or restaurant menu or signage or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just photograph it themselves and put it on.
And also, if they go, we want a logo. The thing is, with like say we're doing a logo design, you say it's got to go on my vans, it's got to go on my shop front, it's going to go up here, there. Say, well, could you take a picture of all the items it's going to go on, so you can get an understanding of what it's going to look like? Because it's never, a logo is ever just shown just on a white background on a screen. It's always in place somewhere, whether that's on a website, whether that's on a business card. And so getting to understand where they may be using it other than, the traditional methods would be really helpful as well.
I mean, for bigger clients, I used to go to, because often, as you said, the logo would go on the building, it would go on their vans or whatever. It would be a good idea to actually go there if you can, because then you can see exactly what customers or the the end user is actually experiencing, because that gives you even a better idea of placement and color and usage and all that kind of stuff. So, and the other thing, of course, the client then also believes that you are really taking an interest in their brand, and you really want to give them the best service you can, because you're holistically approaching the whole situation, not just okay, here's the logo, here's the design.
It's the opposite of being in your own little bubble, like we said at the start.
Precisely.
You're really getting in their head and caring about them.
I love the idea of going where it's happening if it's a physical business, because it's true. If you don't know and they're surrounded by competitors that are doing very similar things, then you might handle it one way. If they're a very strange store, like with a bunch of totally different stores around them, you might handle it differently. Or they might have like some sort of advantage of some sort of landmark or thing that makes it make more sense. You know what I mean? Like there's things that take advantage of in physical spaces, whether that be by using a wall or whatever. So
and in some cases, if it's like a storefront, you could even go I used to enjoy just giving my 2 cents, because I don't know, always thought I knew better. Is that you can even go one step further and say, well, why don't you on this glass panel do this, and over here you can have your writing of what you sell, and so you can really give them more advice on the general design of their store if you want to, because a lot of people are clueless. They go into the stuff blind, and if you can give them added value, that'll be awesome.
If you could take the lead at the beginning, it really shows, gives confidence to the customer or to the client, because it sounds like, this person knows what they're doing, and it's that build up of trust, which will, at the end of the project, when you show them the final thing, they are more likely to go with it just because of that trust thing, and the fact that because if you like with the story behind a product or story behind something, you're more likely to go with the one that you relate to the more. It might be exactly the same products, but if someone has the story that you build up trust with, you're more likely to go with that. So I think for it's a great idea to sort that out, and that's just something you can do in your downtime when you're waiting for a client, or you're trying to promote your website. Put together like a welcome pack, really, for all your clients, future clients that come in, say, this is how it works, because that mood board would work for a lot of different things, not just logo design or.
What you're talking about is scalability, because you're not holding their hand every single time. You're sending them a pre-made tutorial or guide or whatever, and I think as well as it asserting your authority and professionalism, that will have the knock-on effect of making your life easier, because if from the word go you're guiding them and they're kind of following your lead, they're going to be less likely to doubt you or argue or kind of push back on stuff. So you're setting the tone early that you're the expert and they follow your lead, whereas if you're being more passive and being there being like, I don't know, kind of tell me what you can and I'll react to it, then you're going to set a reactive tone, which will lead to problems further down the project.
And something else as well, what you could do, if you do set aside time and you build up a little welcome pack, you could also then put it on the internet to share with other people, and that even shows even more of a, you're trying to help other people. That gives, another client seeing, hang on a minute, he knows what he's talking about, and he's also sharing his skills with other people, and it just adds to the fact that you're professional in what you do. That too.
Nice.
Sorry.
Can I just say, by the way, Ian, we missed you, buddy. We didn't acknowledge it's been 2 episodes without you, and obviously now you're back, you're dropping these knowledge bombs and profound wisdom. We've had 2 weeks of just dead air, sort of waiting for something.
We've been like these 3 dumbasses.
Have the listens been down?
Yes.
No, I think there's a couple of people listening still. My mum and just some deranged bloke.
Got a lot of bad comments over the past couple episodes.
Mm-hmm.
What I was going to bring up though, Diane Gibbs, who I think we all know, she's a professor or assistant professor, one of the two, of graphic design, and she has her senior year students in college do a fair where they make a product and have to sell the product, basically make a little tiny small business and sell a product, which to me everyone should have to do that's a designer, because it's the equivalent of, here's another little analogy to throw at you. It's the equivalent of being a person that like builds tires for a living or has a tire factory, but's never driven in a car. Like, how can you know how to make a good tire if you've never even felt how it feels to drive in a car, right?
Precisely.
I think you see a lot of things you maybe don't see, or you see a fresh angle of it when you have even a small little tiny business just to try.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it also helps you to ask those right questions as well when you first meet the client, because then you know what they're going to overlook or not think about, but is important to the end result. So,
right.
Yeah.
Or something like you think is so kind of silly that they're worried about. You're like, you're right. Like that is end up being a big deal.
It's important. Yeah.
Here's a challenge for all the listeners. Why don't you try and hire another designer for something? And to justify it, find someone fairly cheap. Unless you're rolling in money.
That takes Ian out of the options.
Like find someone who's affordable. Do it with something you actually want to delegate, so it's going to help you. You're not just doing it for the sake of charity. But then pay attention and take notes to your mindset. So even if it's like a quick, cheap job, I have found that I'm a bit of a hypocrite, because sometimes when I've hired other people, especially if it is like something that's fairly cheap or I've just outsourced and I know I'm never going to see them again, I will go into like demanding client mode, and I'll kind of start naturally slipping into being someone who I probably wouldn't want to work with. But I think it's good to like pay attention to some of the thoughts that will cross your mind as that happens, because next time you're on the receiving end of it, it's like, okay, I kind of get where they're coming from.
Yeah, it's also a good exercise if you want to, because you always speak about finding the perfect client or understanding the perfect client that you're speaking to. So that's a good exercise to come up with the wording for your website. So all the fears and the confusions and the things that you were feeling as the customer yourself, you can now tap into that and kind of appease your clients by having all this wording on your website, telling them what don't worry, I've got your hand, I'm holding you all through the whole process, that kind of thing. So
that's such a good idea. It would be so worth, even like as you deal with customers, writing down different statements you hear them saying, keeping a note, like a file of that on wherever, because using those words in your copy could probably really help people be like, yeah, totally, that's exactly how I feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Man, where were we when I was starting out?
I don't know.
That's such a humble brag. Man, we're good. I don't know why I've got an urge to start creating stupid memes on the back of this show.
I know.
Have you guys seen there's a few of these, but where it'll be like, the perfect man doesn't exist, and then the word exist will cut out, and it will show like a disgusting slob of a guy like covered in beer and like potato chips or something. And so I just want to create like something with Ian Space being like, the perfect designer doesn't exist, and then just be like, here he is. I just want to create like a lame graphic on the back of the show. I've got the urge.
Maybe that can be the visual for this episode.
Someone commented to me on Instagram, and they were like, because on that first post I had done for my project, I'm not trying to promote this thing and just telling you, I had written.
Wait, sorry, are you talking about Hey Dustin Lee? Are you talking about that account?
I'm talking about the Hey Dustin Lee Instagram account.
Instagram.com/Hey Dustin Lee. Okay.
Hey Dustin Lee. Hey,
I had written on the first post where I started in the background, everything that came to my mind, and one of the things was Ian Bernard is better than me. I think that's how I said it. And someone wrote back and was like, that should be a show. There should just be like a web series or a YouTube series called Ian Bernard is better than me. And it's just different designers working on a project, and they're like,
oh god,
damn it all to hell. Ian Bernard is better than me. If we just had an Ian Bernard here, what would Ian Bernard do in this situation?
Or please do like a Jekyll and Hyde alter ego. Do like a mini show, Ian, where people post you their designs and you just pretend to be an awful guy, and you're like, this is a piece of and you just screw it up and throw it in the bin. You're like, this is how it's done.
I would be able to do that. I'll be like, this is great. I love it.
I think it would be awesome if you did the Gordon Ramsay style and did like, well, in America, I heard he's more aggressive than in the UK, but like,
yeah, he is.
You just look at hand lettering and you're like, Is that supposed to be an S? That's utter rubbish, blah, blah, blah. I use that for toilet paper. I'll show you how to draw an S. Get this fixed up.
I love how whenever an American does an English accent, they become 583% more eccentric.
It's so hard. I started it, and I was like, I can't do it.
You started, but it fell short.
I know, because as soon as I started, I was like, I can't pull this off.
Just imagine a potato in your mouth. That's all.
This is so hard. Oh, well, it does make it a little easier. Wait, oh no, that's still not good. That's a rubbish ash. I sound like Sean Connery if he was.
There's only two. There's only two accents that come out when people try and do English, or Americans try and do English. Either really posh, like some of the royal family, or a Cockney.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Apples and pears.
There's no in between, is there? Oh, how is one doing? 'Cause I'm all right, geezer.
Dustin, can we just approach the fact that you still can't say my surname? You say Bernard, but it's like bar black sheep. Bar. It's like Barnard. Farmyard.
If I said it like that over here, people would punch me in the face. They'd be like, "What? You think you're all fancy? You think you're fancy trying to use your little British accent you got from your little UK friends? I got to say it American. Bernard.
Come on, say it properly for me.
That's not even how it's spelled. I mean,
there's no E. There's no E in it.
Bernard. I mean,
Oh yeah.
Barnard. Like as in
Hey.
Chris Barnard, heart transplant man.
I'm American, okay? You're asking too much of me. I'm trying my best here, okay, to keep up. I'm trying my best.
Okay. At the risk of sounding like a killjoy, shall we jump back on topic?
Oh, yeah. Oh, we're recording. Yes, that's right.
Okay. So, any other tips for getting out of your own way, out of your own head, thinking of the bigger picture?
I think that whole thing of we have two ears and one mouth, so listen twice as much as you speak, which is a real challenge for me. But I think just learning to listen really good though.
Yeah. And ask questions. Ask the right questions. Ask many questions. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think a good question might be, Mr. Bernard?
Like as in Saint Bernard.
Bernard.
I mean, what are some good questions? So we've done the mood board thing. Shall we give a quick fire question or two, which we've found positive things come from talking to either a client or an audience? Because we ask our customers questions as well.
Well, I always, whenever I used to approach a branding design from scratch, especially if a client was new to hiring a graphic designer, and as Dustin, as you said, the small businesses that they do this once in their life kind of thing, hiring designers, so they never know what to really say. But for me, the base, for me that told the most was I always used to ask them, how do you want your customer or whatever they were selling, the end user, whatever, to feel about your brand? And that feel, just getting that from them gave me a better sense of the vision that they had for their company. Because often they can't articulate what they, visually want. But if you get a sense of their feeling, it helps.
I like that. I think often one that elicits good responses is if you start negative. So if you're like, tell me some stuff that you don't like, and often that's one that designers forget to ask, but you'd be surprised because it's not like just terrible design that they say they don't like. They might be like, actually, I personally really hate this style, even though it's on trend and other people think it looks nice. And so you kind of avoid a landmine by addressing that stuff up front.
Yeah,
I think
true.
A lot of times we ask around the true thing we need to know. So maybe just by being direct and saying, what is the number one thing this you want to achieve with this product, with this project? What's like the number one thing that must be like done through this? and just getting straight to it, because a lot of times there's something and we keep asking questions and trying to put the puzzle pieces together when we could really just be like, what is that one thing?
Can I, this is really fast becoming my catchphrase, but can I caveat that, Dustin?
Of course you can.
Yes.
Just in case
If you can do it with an analogy, that would be even better.
Well, riddle me this.
Here are we, folks.
So I have asked that question, and generally the client will say, oh, well, when we get our new design facelift, we want to earn more money, be more successful as a business. So I actually think it's good to say, tell me the one main thing you want this to achieve besides that. Because that's kind of, that doesn't help you when they're like, we want to do better in business. It's like, okay, that doesn't help me. So if suddenly you preclude them from saying that, they'll be like, oh, actually, okay, I have to think about my answer.
That's a good point.
Well, and to add a caveat to that.
Whoa. Did you just flip it and reverse it? Missy E style?
Oh, brilliant minds. I was going to say something to the point of like with money, like if people say that there tends to be a variety of ways that all lead to money, right? Like, well, we want to increase brand awareness, or we want to increase our conversions, or we want to make sure people know about this special promotion going on. So you can typically get them to slice that. So basically what you said, I just like said more about it.
You just piggyback to my brilliance.
Exactly.
Is what you're saying.
I just like rode that coattail right to the end of the show.
I'll allow it.
You could get them to list some words that sum up their business. So
yes, that is good.
That you could understand exactly what they think their business is about.
Mm-hmm. Exploitation, child labor, that kind of thing. No, that is good. And you could even divide it into a grid, right? So it's like put feelings and emotions on one quarter of the grid or whatever. Put more tangible words.
Oh, that's cool.
You know what I mean? So it would be like, we're about like caring and generosity, but we're also about customer service and quality of product and more tangible things like that.
Gosh, I wish we had like a link we could share to that, or like something. That'd be a cool thing to see.
Well, I'm making notes as we go.
Thanks for offering, Dustin.
Yeah. Cheers, buddy. Yeah, if you want to illustrate that with your blob brush.
I knew as soon as I said that, I was like starting to dig a hole a little bit.
That sounds really dodgy, blob brush. Yeah, I'm taking notes throughout this episode because we're going to be ramping up the content at Design Cuts and putting out some resources and basically stealing your guys' ideas and turning them into useful guides and stuff. If you don't mind, that is.
That's brilliant.
If you don't mind your resident potato mouth stealing your ideas.
There's, I can't do it. I was going to try the burst thing again. I'm going to practice this for one of these times. Blow you guys away. Yeah, because there's so many opportunities to help people in surprising ways that they might really enjoy. For instance, I think a lot of businesses, I didn't learn this until like years in doing it. And when I did, it was so exciting, is to ask customers, describe what I do. Like for Retro Supply, describe Retro Supply. And how they would describe it was completely different than how I described it. And then you realize, oh, this is how they see it. They see it totally different than I do. And so doing things like that, if they can tell you that, that helps you with your project you're doing for them. But that also is something that could be really exciting for them in so many ways. Plus, it's really hard to argue with what their customers say. So when you say, I did this because your customer said that, there's not really any opinion involved. The customer said that. It's the truth. That's the person that buys.
Yep. Exactly. Oh.
Nice.
Good idea. What about, another thing is you could say, describe your company as in terms of like a car. What car would your company be?
So it's relatable stuff for them as a non-designer.
Yeah. So
and it like that makes it fun as well, right?
Using an item to describe your company as like a car. What car would it be and why? Or an animal. What animal would your company be and why? So they can sort of engage a different part of their brain as they try and describe their company rather than, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
As you change that to sort of a different object that's nothing to do with your company, you're able to portray certain aspects onto it that you wouldn't do if you were trying to describe your company in black and white. So, like Dustin, how would you describe Retro Supply as either a car or an animal?
Ice cream truck.
Oh,
Why is
I
that?
love that. Why?
That's cool.
Because it gets you where you're going, but you also makes you stop and have some fun. I love
That's
ice
good.
cream trucks.
That's good.
I love ice cream trucks. I'm aware.
Yeah, that's an amazing answer.
How are we ever going to top that?
I might have something in the locker.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Mine for design cuts would be the Mystery Mobile from Scooby Doo, because we've got like all our growing team members inside there. So we've got like a bunch of awesome people in there, and we're just going around like trying to basically solve problems for the community and the customers and the business, and just like
I like
strategize and work through and have our little crazy adventures growing it all.
I take it you're Shaggy because you're so tall.
Hold on. I can't believe I'm going to do this on air.
And you eat a
Yes.
lot of sandwiches. Really big
Hold on, like,
sandwiches.
hold on. That squeaked.
Be careful who you think Scooby Doo is.
Hold on. Oh, Scoob. Reggae.
I love that. Oh, I love that.
That was
Brilliant.
poor.
That's a hidden talent we didn't know you had.
I'm on the spot. This is from entertaining my young stepbrother.
Okay, so now the cover of this episode definitely has to involve a mystery machine or Scooby Doo.
Yeah, listen to the end of the episode to find out what
Oh
it's about.
man, I'm gonna regret doing that. There's any semblance of professionalism
It's a shame
firmly out the window.
we need like sound effect gifs. You know, like an animated gif. You get a sound effect gif, and we could have Tom doing his Scooby Doo impression.
And I'll do my really killer British accent.
Yeah,
Yes.
nailed it.
Not.
Lisa,
Oh, this is hard. I want to choose an animal, but I also want to choose a tricycle.
yeah.
The tricycles are for little babies and they don't go fast. You
They
can't get
do
'em anywhere.
if you put a jet on it.
Oh, that would be cool. Tricycle with a jet. Okay, you win.
Maybe a fox, because a fox is like can be really cute.
Please, can it be a
and
fox on a tricycle?
Oh,
Fox on a tricycle.
on
like
a jet
that.
tricycle.
I would have chosen for you a Beetle, VW Beetle, because they're like nothing looks like a VW Beetle. You know, the old ones like
Yes. I
and it's-
love those cars.
Good shout.
I like that.
Ian, how about
I'll
you?
take it.
I'd probably be a Bugatti Veyron after Dustin's comment on his first illustration.
What? Because you're better than Dustin.
He's better than everybody. Wait, is that like a really nice sports car? I've never heard of that.
Yeah,
I've
it's
never
like
heard of that.
ridiculously. It's like $1 million or something.
Oh, really? Oh,
I'd
wow.
probably, if I was an animal, I'd be a donkey because
Oh,
I'm not particularly quick, but I get there in the end.
Hmm.
Oh, I
So-
love donkey.
Surely you're like the tortoise then, the hare and the tortoise.
Yeah, but a donkey's like reliable and or like it works hard, but not as, but
Work
a lot
well.
slower. So you know, you get those the Shire horses.
Yeah,
Mm.
Well, I'm not as strong as them.
as in live in the Shire, or like they're less confident.
The ones that are massive, that can pull like
Those huge ones.
that
Yeah.
can pull like massive
Yeah.
trailers. Well, not that strong, and as good looking as them. I'm more of a donkey who's not as.
Oh no, mate! I want to give you a cuddle.
I would say I would like if you were a car, I would think of you as like some sort of 60s Mustang, because anything you do with your lettering you make look so good, and like when you put like anybody, like you could put me in a Mustang, I'm gonna look so good, right? Like, I know I don't look like much here, but you put me in a Mustang, something happens. That's what anything like Ian can write anything. Like he letters something out, it could be anything, and it looks so good. Plus, it's so smooth, right? When he does it, like just like
So true.
now, I'm starting to hear Little Red Corvette from Prince in my head as I'm picturing Ian writing.
Nice.
Though, if you go inside my car, it would be a right mess, though.
Oh, mine too.
Oh yeah, don't get me started. It's
Yeah,
designer
mine
syndrome, I
too.
think. Okay, so in an episode about getting out of your own head, out of your own bubble, and thinking about the wider audience and people consuming or buying your stuff. We finished on a very self-indulgent note, which is relevant to no one listening, I'm sure. But now at least everyone at home gets to know what cars and tricycles we are.
But hey, tag us and tell us what car or animal you'd be. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Let's flip it back on them. But yeah.
No, if there's any psychologists listening, then they can really read between the lines of what. Have a field day of.
But yeah, seriously, like we always love hearing from you guys on social media, on comments, etc. So hit us up and let us know your silly answers. Cars and animals, what are you? And in general, we hope this episode helped you out. There's hopefully some food for thought there. Yeah. And yeah, we'll catch you next time. Bye from all of us.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Potato in the mouth. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
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 Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. We hope that it motivated you to get out of your own head more and see your work from the perspective of others. As always, you can find full show notes over at honestdesigners.com or find us over on iTunes by searching for The Honest Designers Show. If today's episode helped you, then it would mean the world to us if you took just a moment to leave us a quick review over on iTunes, as this is the best way for your fellow designers to discover the show. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you next week right here on The Honest Designers Show.